He has a weekly columnist for the Charleston Coastal Times from 1994 to 1998, as well as the author of the 1895 segregation fight in South Carolina, Mr. Potts and Me, Voices of Black South Carolina, Legend and Legacy, True Stories of Black South Carolina, and co-author of Born to Serve, the story of the WBEMC in South Carolina in 2006. Research and articles by Mr. Fordham appear in the books Sweetgrass Baskets and the Gullah Tradition by Joyce Coakley, South of Maine by Beatrice Hill and Brenda Lee, the Greenwood Encyclopedia of African American Folklore for the University of Missouri Press, Cecil Williams and Sonny DuBose's Orangeburg 1968, and the Malcolm X Encyclopedia for the University of Southern Mississippi Press in 2001. He has also commented on history and storytelling for numerous radio and television programs in the United States, Canada, Japan, and the United Kingdom. He was on a 10-day tour of Senegal and Gambia, West Africa, with fellow educators, where he spoke to students at the University of Gambia in May 2022. He has also appeared on the NBC, LX News, and CBS Sunday Morning in 2022. He conducts a walking tour called The Lost Stories of Black Charleston and has received a citation from the South Carolina House of Representatives for his work in education, historical research, and social justice. He was also on the educational fact-finding visit to Senegal and Gambia, West Africa, where he toured the slave port at Gore Island and spoke to a class of students at the University of Gambia in Banjul. His motto is, educate yourself to lead yourself, for if you wait on others to show you the way, you will wait for a long time.
Good evening. My name is Damon L. Fordham, Adjunct Professor of History at the Citadel, as well as the author of several books on our history. And I'm here to talk to you this evening about the principle of Ujima, which is collective work and responsibility. You see, ladies and gentlemen, too often, the average person knows pretty much what they are told. And oftentimes, because of our situation in America, many of our ancestors were brought up to believe the worst things about themselves in order to keep them as a permanent class of cheap labor. They were led to believe that they were ignorant, that they were good at all things physical and nothing mental, and that their businesses were no good and that they couldn't unite and all these things. And if you grow up hearing these type of things all of your life and you do not read other things that contradict that or see other things that contradict that, you grow up believing the worst things about yourself, and your life becomes wasted to its possible potential. So what does this have to do with anything? Well, over the last year, in May of 2022, I had the honor of taking a journey with a delegation to the West African nations of Gambia and Senegal. And I'm here to tell you, it's one thing to read about the great things that they have in Africa or see documentaries about it, but when you're actually there and see it for yourself, it does wonders for what you think and your psychological makeup. To give you an example of what I mean, when the plane came down in Dakar, Senegal, which is the capital of Senegal in West Africa, a gentleman came up to greet me, and he came up to me with a very sincere, "Professor, is that you?" And I said, "Yes." And so then he goes, "Salam alaikum, my brother. Welcome to Senegal." And automatically I felt the warmth from this young brother. And so he took me in his van to the hotel where the rest of the delegation was in Dakar, Senegal. And as we drove through the capital, here's this major metropolitan city with skyscrapers and everything, run top to bottom by people who look like us. In a country run top to bottom by people who look like us, in a large portion of the continent that is run top to bottom by people who look like us. And when you go there and you see how they have television stations and universities and so on and so forth, all run by Africans, it really does something to your spirit, because here you're 10% of the population, and you're kind of always watching your back and wondering what other people are going to do, and you're self-conscious and so forth. But when you go over there to a country when you are in the majority, it really has an effect on your mind. And the next morning, a bunch of us went down the streets of Dakar, and a group of children stopped off, we're on a school bus, they stopped for a field trip. As they were getting off the bus, I walked over to them and said, "How are y'all doing? I'm from America." And they were like, "You American, you American." And they came off the bus and gathered around me and took pictures with me and danced with me and embraced me and so forth. And every person of African descent who's in America who goes to Africa, I think, they dream of that moment where we're welcome home. And I had that moment. And over the next week and a half, we spent time with professors, university officials, people on the streets, and we even went into the villages and the jungles where we spoke to village elders and tribal chiefs and tribal kings and tribal queens and all of that. And even the people in the depths of the rural areas and the jungles and all of that. You know, you watch movies here and they have you believing that these people are ignorant. No, 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 no. These people have that folk wisdom, that ma and pa wisdom. You know, if you went to the country back in the days and you had these elders who may not have gone to school and they may not be able to tell you who William Shakespeare or George Washington is, but they understood the reality of human nature, and they knew who they were and they knew whose they were. I spoke to those village elders through translators, and they gave me so much wisdom and knowledge that I couldn't possibly get out of a book, that I made sure to take a notebook with me and write down whatever they said. And I made beautiful connections among these people that will last with me in my heart forever. And I got a chance to speak at the University of the Gambia at one point, and I told the students that we here in the West may be able to teach you some things when it comes to technology, but you in Africa have a lot to teach us on basically how to treat other people and how to conduct yourself as a human being in many ways, and make basic things like respect and a sense of community and an understanding of who we are. So when I get back to America, I'm going to tell the truth about Africa. And I've been doing a lot of that ever since. Because you see, over in the villages and the jungle areas and the rural areas, they raise their children the way that we were once raised, which is collectively. They still have what's called initiation ceremonies. I went among the Mandinka people where they had these young men who were training how to be men by the village elders for days and weeks at a time. And they do the same thing with the young girls. I noticed that in the villages, the children are not just the children of the parents, but they are the children of the community. And the children of the community and the tribes and all and so forth, they don't think of themselves as the individual. They think of themselves as the collective. And they are the living embodiment of collective work and responsibility that we're trying to find among us here in America. So I say all of this to tell you a couple of things. Malcolm X, who himself was transformed when he went to Africa back in 1964, once said that you can never do anything if you never knew that you did anything. And if you sit back and you listen to people who are not well informed tell you that you can't do this and you can't do that, and you don't read your way out of it, or you don't travel your way out of that, that's what you're going to grow up believing, and you will waste your potential. So I say all this to tell you, even if you cannot afford to go to a place like Africa yourself, you find people who did, and you sit and talk with them, and you read as much accurate information as possible. Go to the library and ask the librarian for good books about Africa, and you can read about it and just learn of the true greatness that exists beyond what you see around you within the communities. And once you learn these things, you take it within you to make yourself a better person, and you shine your light as a good example to your community, and especially the young people around you. And best of all, share what you know. Because I'm going to close this with a folk tale that's told by the griots, or the storytellers of West Africa. They tell of Anansi the spider, who once found a jar full of wisdom. And the spider figured, I'm going to get all this wisdom for myself. And he climbed up this tree with this big jar of wisdom that he was going to keep for himself. But along the way, his tentacles slipped and went, oh! And the jar dropped, bam! And the wisdom was scattered out all over. And everybody else in the jungle went and grabbed the wisdom, and the spider started crying. And the old, wise, elder spider came up to the young Anansi and said, man, what you crying for? And Anansi the spider said, I had this jar of wisdom that I was going to keep all to myself, and now I dropped it, and everybody else in the jungle has that wisdom. And the older spider said, you should be thankful. It is a good thing, because it's better for many to have wisdom than just one. My name is Damon Fordham, speaking to you on the issue of collective work and responsibility, and happy Kwanzaa.
My name is Vanessa Gadd Clark. I'm a member of the Tri-County Black Nurses Association, and I have the honor to pour libation. Libation is giving honor, reverence, respect, and recognition to our ancestors whose shoulders we stand on, and our elders whose shadows we walk in. We pour this libation in remembrance of our ancestors who died during the Middle Passage on their journey to America.
Ashe.
We pour this libation to honor the brave men and women who fought for our freedom as we fought to overcome slavery.
Ashe.
We pour this libation to honor the memory of the brothers and sisters of the 1960s who understood what it meant to struggle and fight in civil rights and human rights, those who had the courage to exercise Black power.
Ashe.
We pour this libation to honor the African American men and women of every branch of the United States military who have given their lives to protect our country.
Ashe.
We pour this libation to honor the brave men and women who have dedicated their lives to serve as first responders and healthcare workers as we strive to overcome the COVID pandemic.
Ashe.
We pour this libation to the past presidents and all members of the Tri-County Black Nurses Association who lit the torch and continue to keep it burning as we provide services to the community, regardless of race, color, or creed.
Ashe.
We call out the names of the ancestors and those who have gone before us. We will never forget their story, and we honor their memory. Harriet Tubman, Mary Mahoney, Dr. Ida Sproul, Ms. Rosalind Strickland, Ms. Beatrice Birch.
Around